In this video, we're going to dive into what are called permissions. I'm sure you've seen them before by now at least. When you're using your phone and you try to do something for the first time, for example, take a picture, you install an application, and the application is going to take a picture, it's going to pop up a dialog saying, do you allow this application to, and then whatever you're trying to do. Permissions are a pretty complex topic, but fortunately for us, there's a package called Simple Permissions that makes it extremely simple. So here are some permissions, and this is actually what they look like, and we're going to set all this up. But Simple Permissions actually allows you to record audio, camera, read external, write external, on and on and on. And you can get nice enumerators to determine what you have and what you need. So let's go ahead and dive in here. Grab that. This is a feature I absolutely love about Flutter, is you just modify your dependencies and bang, everything just works most of the time. All right, so we've got that. Now, let's go ahead and add our includes here. We're going to be working with some asynchronous code, so we need the Dart async package. And let's import Simple Permissions itself. It's not liking that for some reason. Oh, dude, completely forgot that. Let's go ahead and build our interface out first. First thing we're going to want is a status. Now, we're going to want some way of actually holding the permissions. So let's use a permission object. Now we need to know what type of permissions we're actually going to work with here. And notice that I'm doing this before I build the interface, even though I said I was going to build the interface first. Let's go into Android. Let's go into our app. Let's go into our source. And we're looking for this. Let me expand this out here. Android manifest file. If you've never looked at the manifest file before, this is what it looks like. And it's simply a manifest for the Android application. And you can see how the first thing is uses permission Android Internet. Let's just paste some permissions in there. Now, just because we have them in our manifest doesn't mean we have them granted. It doesn't even mean that we've requested them. It just means this is what we intend on doing. Make sure they're in there and make sure they're in the correct section right here at the top, not down in the bottom anywhere. Now let's continue on. So we're going to change this to the status. And we're just going to add some raised buttons here. We're going to say check permission, and through the magic of copy and paste, I'm just going to add a few of these. I'm just going to say get status, and let's do open settings. And let's do our main axis alignment space evenly, and why not? Let's do a cross-axis alignment and center everything. Let's go ahead and rerun that. Just going to rerun the whole thing right from scratch. Sometimes it doesn't like some of these packages, and you got to kind of play around with them and figure out what's going on here. So we're going to run that. While it's running, we're going to actually work on some code here. I'm going to do an init state. Didn't like that. Something's going on in our code here. Data null equal true. Failed assertion data null equal true. Probably because we haven't actually set our status yet. That would be my guess what's going on here. So let's do that. And then let's print out our permissions values. That way we can see all the available permissions. There we go. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. If you're wondering why we had an error message, it's because status was null and we're trying to display a null. All right, now these are the values for the simple permissions object. You can see that's permission record audio, permission camera, permission blah, blah, blah. That's what we're going to be working with here. Let's go ahead and let's make some functions. And we're going to say request permission. Going to be doing a little bit of async coding here. Let me hide that so we got a little bit more screen real estate. All right, one more. Okay, so of our functions, we've got request, check, get the status, and then we've got a drop-down change, and then get drop-down items. Let's start filling these bad boys in here. So first one, we're actually just going to request the permissions. We want the simple permissions, request permission. And what that's going to do is look at that Android manifest file. Let's pull it back up here and say, hey, everything that we just said we wanted, let's go ahead and request that. We're just going to print that out so we can see what's going on. Let's go ahead and set state. Let's just do a permission to string. And update our interface. Nice and simple. You can see how the bulk of our code is really just playing around with our interface. Really, this is what's doing the work here. Now let's do a check permissions, and we can actually just grab the bulk of this. And let's change this to check permission. Now let's get our permission status. Notice how we changed that to final instead of bool. So really all we're doing is we're working with the simpler permissions package and then just printing out the results. The drop-down change, really what we're going to do is we're going to put a list of available permissions in the drop-down and then allow the user to pick one. So on the on change, we want to actually set our state here. So we're going to set state. And then let's just print that out. That way we know for sure it worked. I guess we can just actually do it up here. And then last but surely not least, before we flesh in our graphic user interface, we've got our highly misspelled get drop-down items. And this is going to just build a list of drop-down items based off the permissions that we can populate the drop-down with. So we're going to say, let's just grab this whole thing here. Let's actually call it items. And then we're going to say we want a for each on these permissions. We want a new drop-down menu item. The child, of course, is going to be a new text. And we want get permission string based off the permission. Let's give it a value. In this case, just the permission. Add that individual item to our list. And then just simply return our list of items. Now we've got this nice big graphic user interface that is doing essentially nothing. So let's start filling this in here. Let's actually add our drop-down. We want a new drop-down button. And notice how it wants items. So let's say get drop-down items. And then for the value, current value is going to be the permission. And on changed is going to be our on drop-down changed. Save that, jump over. Now you can see we have a drop-down list with all the available permissions. Let's go ahead and fill in all these buttons here. So we've got our check permission, which is going to be check permission, request permission, looks like I screwed that one up. There we go. Get permission status. Here we're just going to say simple permissions, open settings. And let's just rerun the whole thing from scratch just to get rid of any issues. Now, you see how it says select an item. Let's go ahead and ask for the camera. We're going to check the permission. We have permission.camera equal false. Let's go ahead and request that. Allow this program to take pictures and record video. We're going to say yes. Notice how it says true. We're going to get the status, and it says status is authorized. And we can open the settings. So we can see exactly what's going on here. Permissions camera. We can turn that back off and play around with it, and we can add other things if we wanted to. And we got a nice big failure, and that's because we didn't set our state correctly. But for this example, I think you see exactly what's going on here. We can check and set permissions. Let's actually just kill this whole thing and restart it. Did not like flipping back and forth from settings there. There we go. So let's look at our manifest and see what we've got here. We've got audio, write storage, camera. Let's choose something that we didn't actually do, like access course location here. False, and let's request it and see what happens. Notice how nothing happens. That's because we didn't actually set it in the manifest file. So it's kind of a two-stage process is what I'm getting at. You need to actually, for Android anyways, set it in the manifest and then actually request the permission itself. So let's do something that we have. Let's say write external storage. Check our permission, false, we'll request it. Suddenly dialog appears because we're got it in our manifest. And then we can get the status it's authorized. So that is the super short version on how to play around with permissions.